Here we go, another week of Experience Andy Wines Live. This is our opportunity every week to shine the light on what may be plaguing you in your life. And this week, as always, we're going to start off with a moment of gratitude so we can shine the light on the good things in this world. This week, I want to thank my friend Patricia Clausen. Patricia and I have known each other for about a year. We had lunch last year at some point, had a great lunch. It was one of those blocked off 90 minutes turned into 3 hours at the world famous Butler, and we're jamming, we're sharing ideas back and forth and feeling great. She's one that listens to the show. She gets my blog every week. And back in November, I did an episode on blame, excuse, and denial and how do we combat those things. And she came back to me and she sent me an email and she said, "Ooh, a suggestion I make." And I love a good suggestion. She said, because I love things that are in threes and I love things that rhyme or they all start with the same letter. It's how my brain remembers things and how I'm able to articulate and gain perspective, even the shining the light, right? I think about, I'm thinking, I'm talking, I'm trying, for example. All three of those have a rhyming scheme to them. They all start with a T. And when I lay those out, where am I going with this? So anyways, I often talk about reflection, awareness, and then regulation in real time. And so she hit me back up in November, and I randomly found this email the other day and got me really excited. So she says, how about using the 3 R's to get out of bed? So blame, excuse, denial, and use the OARs to succeed and enjoy aliveness. That's what she said. So BED, B-E-D, blame, excuse, denial, or OAR, ownership, accountability, responsibility. That is the action coach model. So she said the 3 R's, which is to reflect, to realize, and to regulate. And I love that word, right? Realize. We talked about last week or 2 weeks about reality, right? What is real? And so what I love about people like Patricia and the listeners that contribute, I've taken this thought leadership to a certain point, and it is not Bible. It's not written in stone. This is our opportunity to say, okay, where else can we take this? Who else can contribute? How do we make this even more digestible? And what I realized in doing that is to be receptive to other people. And as I thought about this word realize, it reminds me of a lyric that my brother has in one of his songs. My brother Tyler J. You can check him out. Tyler J. Happy Feet. Check him out on YouTube Music, Spotify, all the places. And he has one of those lines in his song that says, "Realize with real eyes." And what he's saying in there is, when you start seeing things more clearly, you realize what's going on around you. And then again, it goes back to that reality and how do you change the real part of reality. So I 100% am giving her credit for that. I'll give her credit for it every time I say it on stage, every time I say it here, and I remember to give her that credit, that realize how powerful a word that is. It's different than being aware, right? Being aware is, okay, I know this thing, but realize, like, hold on, how do I own this? How is this me now that I realize where I'm coming in, how I'm showing up to the world? And conveniently, that's what we're going to be talking about when we're talking about shining the light. Let's pay some bills here. Speaking, it's what I love doing. That's it. Workshops, primarily. I also do keynotes, anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 to 90 to 4 hours. I love going out and impacting the world through lessons like we talk about here. And how do I bring this all together? How do I shape and mold the world? My goal is to change the world one word at a time. And I do that through keynotes and through workshops. So for those of you that have companies, for those of you that work for companies that want this information, and how do we create that language of leadership, something that's systematic, thorough, and repeatable within your organization so that you can realize the real goals in the organization. Realize this is the best way that we can work with each other. This is the best way we can communicate to develop more and more teamwork, more and more accountability, ownership, and responsibility. So that's the plug for the day. All right, let's get to the subject matter at hand. Shining through the light. I was at my parents' house yesterday. I stopped by, my daughter and I. She was heading back to her mom. Stopped by, made some muffins with Grandma I. That's what we do. So I stopped. I was washing my hands in the bathroom. The light was off, middle of the day. The light is shining through the window in the bathroom. And I look in the mirror, like I look in the mirror every morning. And all of a sudden, I see some blemishes on my face I hadn't seen, a scar or two, maybe even a wrinkle that I hadn't yet acknowledged. And my first thought was like, ooh, what's that? And then let me go turn the light on so that I get the light here and then I can see it. I stop for a second. Hold on. I look at my face every day in the mirror with the light right here. And when I look at it that way, I only have seen what I've already always have seen. Now the light shines through from the right. I'm starting to see things I've never seen before. Reminds me of a story from a friend of mine who was talking. She's a cleaner. She was telling me a story about how you can tell when a room is clean. You can tell the room is clean when you shine all the light on it and you can see all the imperfections. And you can tell a room is really clean when you turn all the lights off. Because then all of a sudden, whatever natural light comes in, you can start to see dust in certain places that was washed out when the overhead lights, the traditional lights, are on. And she said, so to be really clean is to have the blackout clean, to have the whole room so dark that you can notice anything and everything. And it's this unique perspective. It's no, let's shine more light on the situation. That's how we can best see what's going on in the world. And reality is no. Sometimes it's about having the right light shined on a situation that will change. And this goes on to what we talked about here back in November when I talked about blame, excuse, denial versus ownership, accountability, responsibility, about the thinking, the talking, the trying. When you start picking up on the language you use within your own mind, you'll start to realize that you keep shining things a certain way. When you shift the way, all of a sudden you see something different. Reality is what reality is. When I do my 4-hour workshop, the first exercise we do is we have people write down an event from their past, their present, and their future that gets them triggered in a way they feel some sort of way. And then we shift the language from things in the future that you had to do, things you get to do, or in the present rather, right? Things in the past that happened to you, and now look at it where it's happening for you. And things in the future that you thought caused you anxiety, and really, what is the excitement there? And when we shift that one word, all of a sudden the real part is true, and yet we look at it from a new perspective, and now we have a new understanding. And it's no different than me standing in the mirror yesterday. I stood there in the mirror, and I saw something new, and my first instinct was to go back to my old ways. The first instinct was to turn the light on in the bathroom, because that's the light is right here, and it's supposed to show me all the things. And what that is, that's plateau thinking. That's going back to what you've always done before. 10 years ago when I was at Master Resiliency Training, 80-hour course, University of Pennsylvania, and the Army, to teach us battle-hardened veterans of the Iraq and Afghanistan wars to understand how to be softer in our approach, to be more aware of what's going on around us. It was the foundation of my book and really a lot of my teaching. Those 2 weeks I spent 10 years ago at Fort Custer, Michigan. And I was with this guy, Staff Sergeant Foshi from Mississippi. And about, halfway through the first week, Tuesday, Wednesday, when we're first starting to have those aha moments, because it's like open mouth, insert fire hose kind of training. I'm used to Billy Badass training. And this is, let's talk about psychology and deep-seated feelings and emotions and our icebergs and subconscious and conscious ways of thought. Like, it was very different. And Foshi, in his own weird wisdom, said, if you always do what you already done, you only get what you already got. I have that on the board in the room next to me. It's still on the board. 10 years ago, I remember that moment in time. He expressed what 80 hours of coursework couldn't express in a way that I understood, and yet I understood that moment. He shined a light that I've never thought about before. So when I change things in my life, changes around me, and not because reality changed, it's that my perspective changes. When I got a new car recently, things changed. I went from driving stick shift to now automatic. That was a change. All of a sudden, I'm driving different. I'm seeing things different. A minor change, and yet I see the world slightly different because the windshield is different. How I approach situations is different when I drive, and all of a sudden, I see things I've never seen before when I drive. And that's no different than life. When I quit drinking alcohol, I started seeing things different. When I stopped associating with certain people, my life started shining new lights on things. When I pulled away from people, some people leaned in and some people stayed out in my life. Even now with my business, we're starting to hire more and build our leadership team more. And then part of me is, wouldn't it be nice? Totally limiting self-belief, right? Wouldn't it be nice? Wouldn't it be nice if I had this and this? My perfect company would have all these things. And I've always said to myself, well, yeah, then my perfect company would have that. But here's all the reasons why I can't. And let me blame this person, that person, the other person. And now I say, hold on, why can't my company have this? We've built up this great foundation. We have these great people. I have these very smart people that are coming and working for me. What is it I want? Now, instead of looking at what I can't have because I lack the knowledge or the experience or the time, energy, money, whatever it may be, now I say, abundance. Look at this abundance I have. I had an abundance mindset to hire them in the first place. I have an abundance mindset in the knowledge that they bring to the organization. I have an abundance mindset of where we are going, and my business is completely different. It's 12 degrees outside today in the middle of February, and I am grateful and I am thankful and I have an abundance mindset. And yet the other 8 years of business, I've shaken in my boots in February saying, we're not going to run out of money. How are we ever going to survive? When's the snow going to break? After 8 years, I finally shifted my mindset to an abundance mindset. And now I can see the world so much better. But here's the trick. When you start seeing an abundance, it's very difficult to go back to that light switch and turn the light on the way you used to think. All of a sudden, you start seeing opportunities. The light is shining in from your left and your right, and things in your periphery that you had never thought about before. And along the way, you find people that also see the periphery. They see the light shining in. They see where it comes in through the cracks. They see the things that they had not seen before. And they support you along the way. They might struggle with you. You may even suffer from their perspective. When I go to networking events now and I say something that's limiting in a belief, I say something that's negative, there's almost always going to be somebody in that room that says, hold on, Andy, don't words fucking matter? Didn't you write a book about this? And now they're holding me accountable to what I said when I was clear-minded. That's a beautiful thing about ownership, accountability, and responsibility. People want to get that dopamine hit. They want to live up to other people's expectations, whether it's your employees, your kids, your significant other. People want to feel wanted and needed and respected. And so when you surround yourself with people that are full of ownership, accountability, responsibility, they're going to hold you accountable. They're going to hold you accountable to what you said when you were free and you're using your big brain, your creative, confident, clear brain versus that lower lizard brain of fight, flight, or freeze. And yeah, you're not always going to like it. I can say that myself. I don't always like it. And yes, it's often uncomfortable when people hold you accountable. And it's that short-term pain for the long-term gain. The goal here is that you start to realize how you show up every day. Take the time to reflect. Look at yourself and when were you showing up in a way that you really were proud of yourself, where you had that ownership, accountability, responsibility? Who was there to support you? Who propelled you forward? Who were those people that brought out your unique ability? And look at other times in your life where you were full of blame, excuse, and denial. What was the stimulus? How did you approach the situation? Who were the people that filled that vile bucket along the way, right? We talk about the two wolves, that wolf of abundance and love and the wolf of scarcity and fear. And there's some people that love to feed that wolf because that's how they're feeling about themselves, whether it's anxiety or insecurity. They're bringing that to the table, and there might be comfort there. Misery loves comfort, and misery loves company. It's comfortable to live in the misery. And I know that. I used to share tons of negative memes on social media because it made me feel better in the moment. And yet it didn't propel me forward. I was still there the next day. And now that I've gotten rid of some of that negativity in my life and I surround myself with people that have ownership, accountability, and responsibility in their minds, I grow a little bit more each and every day. Climbing a mountain takes work. It takes skill. It takes a team. It takes a mindset that does not serve you among the plateau people. So this week, take the time to reflect. How did you show up in certain situations? What do you realize about yourself? Test it. Ownership, accountability, responsibility, blame, excuse, denial. How did you show up? That's it. What language did you use to prep yourself for this situation? Did you go into it with a fear-based mindset, or did you go into it with a abundance-based mindset? And then ultimately, how did you regulate yourself in real time? Final story, this last week, I had an exchange with my ex-wife with our daughter. And I was anticipating having my daughter for 4 days. She was anticipating having me having our daughter for 3 days. And I went into the conversation already with my walls up. And then when my days got reduced, I instantly got defensive. I could feel everything about me. And I chose to regulate in that moment. I chose to sleep on the conversation before re-engaging. And then I chose to do what was for the greater good, which was maximize my quality time with my daughter. Because I've said that before, it's about quality, not quantity. So one day less is not less love. One day is more opportunity for me to love on her when I do have her. And it took me putting my phone down, putting it on silent, sleeping, and clearing my head, having some conversations with people that hold me accountable in order for me to show up the best way so I could show up for my daughter, being the best father. When you regulate in real time, you start to develop and build those muscles so that you spend less time reflecting, less time realizing, because now you've trained yourself to regulate in real time. So my challenge for you this week is very simple. Reflect back on some of the times this last week. How did you show up? What was the end state? What do you realize about yourself along the way? And what will you regulate the next time that stimulus comes across your plate? This week and always, do the fucking thing. Tell the world and show the fuck up for yourself and everybody else around you that's counting on you to hold them accountable. Those that want you to take ownership. Those are the reasons why we show up, is to be the best authentic version of ourselves for ourselves and others. I'll see you next week.